we've seen the war in Ukraine. We've seen what's going on in Gaza. With these current conflicts, are we looking at end of times and the reappearance of Imam al-Zaman?
People are dying every day. You mentioned the Middle East, Lebanon, Palestine. The question is, who will establish peace? And the Shia position is clear, that peace will only be established with the coming of the 12th Imam, Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman.
People use this opportunity to come out and say, I'm the Imam, or this guy's the Imam. And it's happened in Iraq, in Basra. When people were around during the Ghaiba Sughra, did they know it was the Ghaiba Sughra?
Oh, wow, that's a good question.
And dude, if there is a World War III, if we take these historical accounts, narrations, it's possible that Europe may not be safe.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Shia Vibes podcast, discussing subjects, themes and topics all within the Shia community. I'm your host Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Hussein Sukhni, one of the legends at Imam Hussein TV, and also our guest for today, graduate in biomedical science. He studied Hawza in Qum as well as London. He practices the treatment of hijama also. And it is Sayed Muhammed Ali Rizvi. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. Is for those of you who don't know, actually, the Sayyid was with me in Hawza. We used to be class buddies a long time ago.
What happened? Sayyid?
What do you mean?
Look at Sayyid's in his imama, he's graduating in attire. What's going on?
I like my I like my Western I don't know, clothes, garments, and everything.
We tackle the challenge from this side.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own way of khidmah.
Yeah.
Ahsant.
We learn a lot from Sayyid. We learn a lot from him.
But I learned from this Sayyid.
There we go. It goes around.
So Sayyid Muhammad, how you doing?
Alhamdulillah, good to be here.
Very
and mashallah,
good to
great to see the progress.
Yeah.
And inshallah, praying for all of you, inshallah, that the message of Ahlulbayt gets out there
Inshallah.
as much as possible.
That's the aim. Yeah.
Ahsant,
Inshallah.
ahsant.
Sukhni, what are you telling me?
Man, good to be back.
Yeah.
Still trying to recover, but
Inshallah.
if we can get the team just to hide.
See, that's a real keyboard warrior there. He's got wounds and then the
type with one hand.
scars.
Good to be back, man.
So let's open up the topic. And I guess the best way to open up the topic is with the hadith. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Man ma'ata wa lam ya'rif imam min zamanihi ma'atan mitatan jahiliya. The one who dies without knowing the imam of his time has died the death of a jahil. And today's topic, Sayyidina, was in regards to current affairs. Now, we've seen the war in Ukraine. We've seen what's going on in Gaza. We've seen what's happened in our home country in Pakistan and so forth. With these current conflicts, are we looking at, the end of times and the reappearance of Imam al-Zaman?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. An excellent question at an excellent time. Of course, now more than ever, people are, of course, asking the question of a promised Messiah, an Imam, or a leader who will come and make peace. Because the reality is that with what's happening around the world, especially, we're all young and we haven't seen anything of this scale in the last 30 years, 35 years, that we are seeing now. So people are asking the question, well, who's going to make peace? Nobody's making peace. Everyone's talking about peace and, people are dying. And since God knows how many months, people are dying every day. You mentioned Ukraine, you mentioned Russia, you mentioned the Middle East, Lebanon, Palestine, Yemen, and now Pakistan and India just a few days back. So the question is that, who will establish peace? And the Shia position is clear, that peace will only be established with the coming of the 12th Imam, Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman, Ajjallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. And so for this reason, we are, ever more encouraged now to discuss this topic, open this topic, dissect this topic. In short, to answer your question, and I don't want to make it into a lecture, but in short, look, wars have always existed.
Yeah.
You remember when the Prophet was passing and he was saying, after me, there will be a fitna of Banu Umayyah. The Umayyin will literally, cause rivers of blood to flow.
Yeah.
And then there were narrations where Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would say that after them would be our cousins, referring to the Abbasids, right? Because they were
they came
from Abbas. and they would cause just as much bloodshed, if not more. Some said they were worse. If the Umayyads killed Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they destroyed the shrine, the haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Now, fast forwarding to the modern times, all the way up to here, and we've been through the Mongols attacking Baghdad, if you remember. Empires after empires. I mean, the sacking of Baghdad with Halaku Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan.
Wow.
That sacking was something else.
Destroyed the city, books were destroyed, scriptures were gone. Yeah.
There was bodies in the streets of Baghdad. Yeah. There was stench in the street of Baghdad because bodies just lay there, right?
Yeah.
And this ended the Islamic Caliphate. It is considered probably the most detrimental attack to the Islamic dunya, because at that time this was the Islamic, Sunni Caliphate.
Ended the golden age of Islam.
It ended everything, really. Yeah. And anyway, this will open another chapter. I don't want to get into that. The Shias were involved in this. Shias are involved behind everything, right?
The Buyids at the time, huh? Yeah.
That's right, yes. So they said, well, they didn't support. Anyway, that's another. But the point being, wars have happened, wars are happening, wars will continue to happen.
Yes.
Does this mean we're closer to Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman? The answer is we're closer to the Imam every day. Every single day we're closer to the 12th Imam.
That's nice.
Okay? But we cannot say for sure this war, for example, Russia and Ukraine, is a sign that we are close to the 12th Imam. Unless we have clear-cut narrations or clear-cut kalimat and alfaz and words that are wadih, that are clear, that this is it. Sometimes, with us, because we live in a time of social media and TikTok and whatnot, we like to go for sensational news.
Okay.
This is sensational. Oh my God, something big's happened. Imam al-Zaman is next. We should not do that. Mantiq, aql, rationality above all of that. Yes, there are wars, but we cannot say this war means the 12th Imam is here, because if we start saying that, tomorrow somebody will say, look, you said this is it. That war is done. It's been 15 years. Where is the 12th Imam?
That's how you get these false prophets that we've spoken about recently.
Yeah, indeed.
People use this opportunity to come out and say, I'm the Imam, or this guy's the Imam. Na'udhu billah. And it's happened, not just this guy in London, in Iraq, in Basra.
Wow.
There's one in Basra, I can't remember what his name is. There's a few that have been in Iraq. In Pakistan, there's been a few. There's that guy that came on the Zakir Naik Q&A.
Remember that? Oh my God, that was funny.
People come out. So some of them might not be sane, but some of them actually have a plan. They are planning to do takhrib. They're planning to,
I mean, look, let's look at, if I'm coming from the Pakistani background, we have what we call the Ahmadis, where Ghulam Mirza Ahmad declared himself a Messiah and so forth, and that he receives wahi. The thing was, he was very, very well acquainted with the Arabic language and Farsi, and he could fool your average Joe into thinking that these rawayat were about me and so forth. And then he's got a massive following. There's millions of Ahmadis, especially in London alone. So coming more recently, we've got, forgot his name. Have you seen him? He's the guy with the beanie hat.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Claims himself to be the Mahdi as well.
Abdullah or something, some nonsense like that.
Yeah.
But it's not a surprise. The only thing that surprised me about him is he doesn't speak Arabic. That's the only thing that surprised me. Before him, we had one that used to come in and out of certain mosques in London.
Okay.
A big following from the Shia that claimed this fellow was Imam Mahdi.
Whoa.
In London, in and out of our mosques. So this stuff happens.
Yeah.
And they take advantage. They're like, the war that just happened in Iraq, that's alamat al-dhuhur, for example. The black flags of the HTS.
Yes.
These are the, what do they call them?
Sufyanis, yeah.
So people, I think, take advantage of these things. And as like you said, Sayyidina, these wars have been happening for years. That region has been destroyed for years. The Fatimids came, the Ayyubis went, the Madrimino came, these lot went. So how do we...
Well, interestingly, what you just mentioned, people claiming a mansab like Nabuwa or Imama, it's part of the alamat. It's part of the signs of the reappearance.
Okay.
That as we get near it, there will be more and more people who will claim Imama. I am the 12th Imam. And there are people in the Middle East. There are people within Iran.
Yeah.
There are people who have claimed
plenty
Mahdawiya, and who have been, many of them are behind bars or have been
plenty.
Dealt with, but they're everywhere, from within to the outside, from the east to the west. And these are amongst this is why it's so important. Now I really emphasize on this when especially when speakers and ulama and muballighin, when they give khutbah, alongside narrating morals and ethical values and akhlaq and adab and whatnot, I personally feel that we should narrate a lot more on the signs of reappearance. Because that's the only thing that will prepare you. If wars happen and bloodshed happens, sometimes a person can lose his or her sabr. But when one is prepared, one sees, look, this is part and parcel of what's going to happen before the world ends, before Qiyamah.
Yeah.
That person doesn't get worried. That person still has a sukoon. Sometimes people ask the question, why did the Imams narrate these signs to those people who won't be there?
Yes. It was for us.
By the way, there's a disclaimer here. When you read narrations that speak of the alamat al-dhuhur,
Yeah.
they are one of the most difficult narrations to dissect. You know why?
Why?
Because they're narrated to people 1,000 years ago, if not more. Let's say 1,400, let's say 1,000 years ago. Or because we have alamat al-dhuhur from Rasulullah, from Amir al-Mu'mineen and from the latter Imams, right? So let's go back. These are signs that have been narrated 1,400 years ago about events that will happen thousands of years later.
So these minds can't even fathom.
Yeah, because of technology.
So just allow me. So what that means is the language that was used back then was used for that people.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times we're not able to dissect that language. We're not able to dissect. For example, there will be a big fire in the east.
Okay.
What does that fire mean? That will last 3 days. Let's say there is a sign actually.
Yeah.
There will be a big fire in Mashriq, in the east. We don't know. Ulama are still discussing, does that fire mean a practical fire like you see, for example, in Los Angeles, you saw?
Yeah, the forest
Or does
fires.
it mean a fire of bombardment of bombs?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're right, actually.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there's a discussion on this. Or I'll give you one more, just so we can open this up. Before the Dhuhur, in the east, the ground, the earth will sink.
Oh.
Now, somebody, one of...
holes. Earth holes, they call earth holes? Mud holes?
Yeah,
But
in the east, you're saying?
In the east, right? So now, I remember I was reading one of the ulama who actually commented on this, and you'll probably know, very big name in Pakistan who passed away. Al-Allama Talib Johri, Sheikh Talib Johri. He was also
Al-Najafi,
student of Sayyid al-Khu'i and Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr. He commented on this in his book, and I was reading, it was interesting. He says, look, if the fact that the hadith doesn't mention it will sink due to natural disaster or something else,
it's open.
And it's open to interpretation, then perhaps the sinking in the east could be Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah.
The nuclear bombs in the east, right? Of the world.
But the question is, was east?
Yeah, because
that's another thing as well.
East, because where they're situated is most likely Hijaz or Iraq.
To be east to them.
So what's east of that? Or what do they consider east? Is
that's open
Hind,
as well.
Is Hind east? Or, Japan,
that's southeast,
Asia?
So that is east, right? West is on the... So if you look at the world map, you'd have Pakistan in the south, then you have Japan towards the east.
Yeah, far east.
And then you have America towards the west, far west, LA, right to the end, California. So if you look at the world map, then this is a possible interpretation. So what I'm saying is that with alamat al-dhuhur, as important as they are to study, one thing we must understand, a lot of the language that is used there, we don't use them. A lot of the areas that are mentioned, we have no idea.
Yeah.
You read sometimes somebody will rise from such and such village. But what is that village? That doesn't either it doesn't exist today, or only the people of that time knew.
Yeah.
Unless it's famous names like Kufa and Basra and Baghdad.
But then, so my question is, it's not really off topic, but it's linked to this. In Ghaiba al-Sughra, when people were around during the Ghaiba al-Sughra, number one, did they know it was the Ghaiba al-Sughra? And there was going to be another occultation afterwards.
Oh, wow, that's a good question.
And do those alamat al-dhuhr apply to the Ghaibat al-Sughra in their minds and in the rawayat that they were taught? Because for them, at their time, the Ghaibah has begun. They don't know the Imam's going to return and go into Ghaibah again.
Yeah. So, actually, there's only one Ghaibah as such. We've broken it down only for the purpose of time lapse. And exactly, to break it down into phases, to understand. The Ghaibah began in the Sardabul Ghaibah.
Yeah.
That's it. For as far as the mu'min is concerned, that is Ghaibah.
Okay.
It begins right there. The only difference is, and why we break it down, is because they were the Naibin, the Nawab al-Arba'a, Nawab al-Khas, who had a direct connection with the Imam. As far as the alamat of the Zuhur is concerned, remember these hadiths were told before.
Yes.
So that is still within them. That is still in the minds, maybe not the everyday person, but at least the ulama, the khawas, the people who are connected with them, that is still the same. That doesn't change. Of course, with the death of the fourth Naib of the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, then things became a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
That this is going to be a prolonged ghaiba. And the Nawab, they were training the people slowly, and the letters were, the letters that
things will start to get misinterpreted over time because there's no longer any direct connection with the Imam, no?
Exactly.
So all these ulama at the time, yes, regardless of their intentions on how much they studied, it's not coming directly from Ma'soom.
That's right.
So what, 1,000 years later, we could say things have been distorted. Not all the alamat are actual alamat. Again, this is just a
that's
thought.
true.
That's a good point. That's a very good point actually, because, and for this reason, you have two types of alamat. Those who are mahtoom, hatmi, yani they must happen, and those which are ghair hatmi, as in they don't have to happen. They can happen, but it's not that they must happen. But there are certain signs that are min al-mahtoom. They must happen, or the 12th Imam will not come.
Like,
have any of them been already done?
The main, no. Khuruj al-Sufyani.
Okay.
So
Khurasani, al-Yamani.
So what's meant to happen in Khurasan and what's meant to happen in Yemen?
So this again, this opens now we're going into the definite signs of the 12 Imams.
Give us a few. Let's
just to keep it short and brief. But amongst them is, for example, the very famous, where everybody knows and everybody speaks about it, especially when things change in Syria. Everybody speaks about
the black flags,
the Sufyani, the coming of a person. And in fact, the narrations say his name will be Uthman ibn Ambatha.
So there's already a name.
He has a name to him. Some narrations have put a name, some haven't. Uthman ibn Ambasa, and he's from the lineage of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. He's an Umawi. He's a Umawi. And because he's an Umawi, he'll do exactly what Banu Umayyad did, which is to kill Shia.
Wow.
And so he will kill Shia. And he will rule. He has some rule, a short rule, not very lengthy, but he will rule over Jordan. He will rule over Palestine. He will rule over Asham and the Levant area.
So you can, what's it called? Northeast of Arabia.
The Levant.
The Levant is called the Levant.
Region,
Okay.
Asham. So he will rule that area. But what's unique about him is that he will be, an ugly individual. You will look at him and
he's an Umayyad then.
Standard. Standard,
Enemy of Ahlulbayt.
Yeah, standard.
You can't expect anything else. But he will kill Shia. He will attack Shia. And of course, he will send armies out towards Medina. And when he knows the 12th Imam is coming, he himself will go towards trying to fight the 12th Imam. So this is mahtoom.
Has to happen.
Yeah, but is there a certain time scale of when it would happen? Because the Sayha has a specific time as well. So would this be before the Sayha or after the Sayha? And the Nafs al-Zakiyah, when the Nafs al-Zakiyah gets killed next to the Kaaba, would this be before the Sufyani or after? That's also a question because this is a...
Yeah, so they all have different time lapses, but they're all quite close. For example, Nafs al-Zakiyah is very close. They say it's between a number of days, 15 days or so. So it's probably one of the last signs when he's killed Bain al-Rukni wal-Maqam. A Sayyid, who they say is from the progeny of Imam Hassan ibn Ali, a Hassani, pious, muttaqi, a pure man, a pure Sayyid, who will be killed within the vicinity of the Haram.
It's one of the closest ones. Okay.
One of the closest ones, yes. Sufyani is before, and you have the Sayha as well, which will happen sometime in Ramadan. Some of the dates say 23rd of Ramadan. So these are definitive signs, okay? Sometimes the text of the hadith, the matn of the hadith may be a little bit different, but you go for the mafhum. Okay, Sayha is there, which is a heavenly call that the Mahdi has come.
Okay.
Haqq has established itself. But then they said there will be another Sayha, which will be from Shaitan.
See, this is where it gets baffling.
Like the people of Uhud were baffled.
Yes.
Remember there was a Sayha that they said Prophet has been killed.
Yes.
Qutila Rasulillah. So the Prophet has been killed. This was a Sayha of Shaitan. Just like there was in that, and the Muslims started diverting, running. Well, the Prophet is no longer around, then why should we stay here.
Yeah.
So at that time, all those who are upon haqq will be with the first, which will be Jibreel.
Okay.
Those whose iman is da'if,
Yes.
not with the 12th Imam, they will go.
Haqq and batil was shown even in Uhud.
Even in Uhud.
Ahsant.
Yeah.
Ahsant.
The ones who stood with Rasulullah in Uhud
And those that
will be
were,
the same as
those that were
Zaman.
running were, yeah, okay.
Mashallah.
And those who fled, they will flee again with the 12th Imam.
Have you heard of, because this is the signs I look out for, which I've heard, I haven't read these. I wanted to say it to comment on them. And of course, my brother Hussein Sukhni as
If
well.
I've got it,
Have you heard of, they said that the final Ramadan before the Dhuhr, on the night of the Dharba of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the scream of Jibreel will be done again. Have you heard something
same
along
scream,
the same
Tahaddamat
one? The same one will be done, or something else. But the angel Jibreel will scream again during the night of Ramadan. And then I've also heard in regards to Yawm al-Ashura, there will be an eclipse on Yawm al-Ashura, and that is the final Yawm al-Ashura before the Dhuhr. Have you heard of anything like this? Or?
I've heard of the eclipse. I've read of the eclipse actually. It is a solar as well as a lunar eclipse, but it happens in the month of Ramadan.
Okay.
Yeah, which is rare, which doesn't really happen. So we have in the middle of the month of Ramadan, you'll have a solar eclipse, followed by the end of the month of Ramadan, you have a lunar eclipse, which is amongst the signs that this is again the 12th Imam. So those signs that you mentioned, so these are those signs which are not definitive.
Okay.
And there's thousands of them. Too many. I'll give you an example. For example, war and bloodshed will be the norm. People will get killed non-stop.
Already
is happening.
People are dying. We're living it right now.
Well, imagine how bad it would be. To the point that people would get sick and tired. The whole world would want somebody, no, this has to end. And that's what the hadith of the Imam Salamullahi alayhi when he comes. يَمْلَأُ الْأَرْضَ قِسْطًا وَعَدْلًا كَمَا مُلِئَتْ ظُلْمًا وَجَوْرًا. He will fill the earth with peace and justice like it would have been filled with dhulm and oppression and tyranny.
Yeah.
So just imagine what it means, to fill, that it would have been filled. So these signs, and by the way, the minor signs, the ulama said 99% are done.
Oh, so even the ones that are not 100% authentic, or they're not,
They're
even
done.
can or can't.
All right, for
Muslim
example,
are finished.
killing, let's say,
That's
indiscriminate
happening every
killing, wars, bloodshed.
Everywhere.
For example, people losing religiosity.
Yes.
The rise of men will be with men and women will be with women.
Okay.
Women referring to LGBT.
Yeah.
Men will dress like women. Women will dress like men.
That's already happening.
So all of these things are already predicted in religious scripture.
The morality going down.
Morality going down. Totally,
it's already happening.
Okay, so here's a question again. Because this topic always just opens up 1,000 doors. When you say it's not a definitive sign, does that mean it's not an authentic sign, or it's there, but it's not classed as something that will be immediate to the Dhuhr? Because this is different.
Yeah, so basically what it means is that if certain shurut are met,
okay,
they may take place.
Okay.
If those shurut and those conditions and that muqaddimah is not met, they may not take place.
But there are legit riwayat and hadith of these specific signs.
Yeah. There
regardless if they're definitive signs or not.
Yeah, but remember, because there's so many narrations, sometimes they're not all authentic.
Of course.
Because there's so many.
But the way I see it is the Ahlulbayt, they have the hikmah that they have given us these signs, so we are always prepared for the Dhuhr.
Exactly.
As opposed to waiting 1,000 years, for example, for these 3-4 signs, Nafs al-Zakiyya, as big as these signs are, we have something throughout.
Absolutely,
to keep us on our toes, as
otherwise
they say.
You just go sleep.
Exactly, yeah.
I'll just switch off. There's plenty of time till the Sufyani. So I'll just switch off. And like this, the Iman will die. Yeah. It's important to have, it was important to have this here because the Mazloom, the Mazloom who gets killed, at least he needs to have some sukoon that there is a bright future ahead. Exactly. This will end. This won't last forever. We're getting killed, for example. For example, you look at the Shia around the Shia of Parachanar, for example.
Yeah.
You look around what's happening with them, right? How long they've been killed for, how long they've been targeted. Nobody's coming to help them. There's a blockade there, right? Nothing is going in. So that
nobody's mentioning them.
Nobody mentions them. It's not even on the news, right? So this chapter is so important that only sukoon and sakina and itminan that Mazloom has is the idea, his hope that there's a bright future.
Yeah, true.
If the Imams didn't give this, right? the Mazlum would have no idea that there's somebody to come, and there will be one day the Mazlum will have his day.
Yeah.
Then the oppressor will be punished. People would lose faith. People lose religion. You could say, goodbye to religion as a whole. And that's why I say this is why Mahdawiyya is so important. The Aqidah of Mahdawiyya is because it is the only hope in dark days.
Yeah. It's the only hope for us, and it's the only hope for us to solidify our Aqidah. Because our Aqidah is based off Madlumiyat Fatima Zahra Salamullah and what happened to her. And our narration state, correct me if I'm wrong, Sayyidina, that one of the first acts that will be done from Imam Sahib al-Zaman is the thar of Tifl al-Radi' and of al-Muhsin.
Yeah.
So
100%.
that Madlumiyya of those two people who solidified our Aqidah today, if that thar is done, then
don't forget that we forget that the Shia are the dua of Fatima Zahra
yes.
because she was told everything that was going to happen when she had Abu Abdullah Hussein in her arms. As the angel Jibreel came and explained, this is going to happen, this is going to, and so forth. And one of the promises was of the Mahdi from her progeny to come and bring justice back, and so forth. And we always forget that this is a covenant between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Fatima Zahra salam alayha. And I like the way you've mentioned it, that Fatima Zahra salam alayha is one of the center points our faith and our Aqidah revolves around. Along with Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam.
So before I want my dhulm to be rectified, as if that's the right way to say it, I want the zalim of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra to receive his treatment first. Who am I in the presence of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra?
So you mentioned in regards to the signs and wars, and a lot of it's in the Middle East. At the time of if things are going to get worse and so forth, we live in Europe. What's going to be happening in Europe? Towards the rising of the Mahdi and so forth.
It's never involved in the
we don't talk about it because it's
conversations.
Islam didn't come from Europe, and we always centered around the Middle Eastern area and regions and so forth. Yes. Now we live in Europe. Are we going to be watching it all from a TV? Like, oh, look what's going on. Like we're doing now. What's the situation?
It's an excellent question, of course, and it concerns us more now because we have obviously migrated and we're brought up and living here, and generations will continue to live here. While the bulk of the narrations focus on the Middle East, Kufa in particular, Basra, Ash-Sham, these names come up, Baghdad, Tehran, these names come up continuously in the narrations. There is also some mention of other countries as well. This political situation of that time of the world, China, India, Europe, Spain has been mentioned. So there's some narrations where a companion narrates from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And most of these signs that we have been discussing, they can be found in the books of the Qudama. Nu'mani in his Kitab al-Ghayba, At-Tusi in his Kitab al-Ghayb, Bihar al-Anwar, Majlisi, and other books who have collected the Alaim al-Dhuhur. One of the interesting narrations that mentions of some touch of Europe is Al-Andalus.
Where's Andalus? Where's that?
So Spain.
Okay.
Spain. This is where when after the Prophet, Banu Umayyah went towards Spain.
Yeah,
they took
the southern
Andalus.
part. Yeah.
That's right. Muslim Spain, as they call it, right?
There's still a lot of the
architecture still there.
Still there.
The architecture is still there. Even
some of the culture is still there as well.
Do you know what Spanish people call shirts in their language? Camiseta.
Do they actually? Yeah.
Camiseta. Yeah. Camiseta. I think it's 1/4 of the language is from the Arabs.
Yeah, that's what happens when the Umayyads come and destroy your land and force you to learn what they want to learn. Yeah. Spread Islam with the sword. Yeah.
Yes. So the sword went there. The Arabic language of the culture went there, and also the horses, the Arabian horses, right?
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
So when they went over, the Arabian horses
and they breed them till this day. It's part of
Okay.
Nice. They're still bred today, and so they would go back to when the Arabs So, but what happens to Europe now? So some of the narrations speak of the destruction of Spain twice.
Really?
Yeah. So the first destruction would be with the conquering of Spain by the Umayyin.
Okay, again.
That's one.
So the Arabs are coming.
That's the one that's already happened.
Right?
That's what already happened.
That's the one that's already happened.
Yeah. And then the narration then speaks of another destruction, possibly. No, it doesn't mean that it will be the Umayyads, or it could be war. It could be anything. But the words that are mentioned is Al-Gharb as well as Al-Andalus. So the narration says the West, Al-Gharb, would have fear, it would have fitna, there would be chaos.
Wow.
So, sometimes you watch the news and you see chaos on the TV.
The riots not long ago, the Tottenham riots and so forth. It's madness.
Forget the riots, COVID.
Yeah.
People went nuts.
Yeah.
Is that not
like
there's something that's never happened to us in our history as long as we can remember?
Yeah, lockdown.
Yes, but
to that extent.
So that's one thing. And some of the scholars have commented on this, and I was reading some of the commentaries, and they say, look, if Al-Gharb is used, it could mean Europe and America.
Oh.
And so some of them say that if there is
America's crazy though.
If there is a World War III, it's possible that Europe may not be safe. If we take these historical accounts, narrations, that there will be some sort of destruction, there will be fear and chaos. And then it speaks of, what's interesting is it speaks of hunger in Europe to the extent that there will be cannibalism.
No. This is all before the Dhuhr.
Before the Dhuhr, yeah. So...
So just to clarify...
Can you deep it, bro?
Yeah.
People are so hungry, they're going to eat each other.
And for that reason, I only clarify that
maybe
this is before the Dhuhr, and the Dhuhr will bring justice.
Maybe there's dead bodies. I don't know. I don't know what the situation may be.
But how bad is it that you got to eat human flesh? Well, there's not enough pigs.
So these are some narrations that are out there. These are some narrations that speak of fear, chaos, poverty to this extent where somebody would eat somebody's flesh. Somebody would eat human flesh. Maybe that just means that if that's the only thing, they would eat that.
Could be metaphoric as well.
But it could. Well, we can't say metaphoric.
Ghiba. But no, you could say the guy's so poor he can only eat human flesh. Not that he's going to, but that's all that's available.
But the narrations clearly say such things, and so it's possible that in the future, the safety, and we enjoy safety here, which is great. We should thank Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that while while there's Muslims around the world who are losing their lives and dying daily, right? Alhamdulillah, we have peace and security in the West. But as they say, a ni'mah should not be taken for granted. You don't know how long it lasts. Things change overnight. The world is changing. And now there are, you look around the world, the weaponry around the world, the things that they have is enough to destroy the earth many times over.
It's actually a fear,
And they can reach anywhere.
Press of a button.
And anywhere.
Yeah. I was watching a documentary yesterday. With the satellites, they can see where any of the weapons are, even they're under the sea. Submarines where they have the nuclear weapons. They can find them from the satellites. And they can release them from anywhere. And they can... So there's no way that the earth will survive if there was one lunatic out there who will just press a button and destroy everything. And there's a lot of lunatics out there. That's the problem.
100%. But I always believed that war has always been business. As in there's certain corporations funding an agenda and profiting from it. And then, innocent civilians like ourselves, we're the pawns and with the collateral damage for them to, make their profit. Iraq is a classic example. They went in, took your guys' oil, still control your oil as well, arguably.
What?
You know what I mean? And then who died? There was innocent American lives that went over to fight and killed innocent Iraqi people as well. And it's just...
A million dead Iraqis for what?
And this if this is not injustice,
years of instability for what? No infrastructure for what? And same with Pakistan, by the way. They're not going to let it rebuild. A lot of these countries, Syria, they're not going to let Syria rebuild. No. They're not going to let these countries rebuild. Lebanon's finished. Yeah. Do you know how heartbreaking that is?
Yeah. And I've someone who's been to Lebanon. I've been 5 times. I've been to Lebanon, and I've seen, from the currency to the way people have been living. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
What's their sin? They're just trying to live their life. They're trying to have a enjoyable, lifestyle. Live with their family. Live in the farms. Not even get involved in politics or anything.
Just live in the villages.
Just getting bombs dropped on them.
Simple life.
Bloodshed is never the answer. Bloodshed is never the answer. But like you're mentioning, Sayyidina, that the narrations say that it will reach that stage, and the Imam will come and bring justice. The coin will flip.
And he has to come.
He has to. Yeah.
Because did he not come? Or if he doubted him, remember that would put a question mark on the truthfulness of the Prophet.
On everything.
On Rasulullah. Was-Sadiq and Al-Amin. If he didn't come. Because it's the Prophet who says there will be 12 after me. The 12th is the Mahdi. The world will not end until the 12th Imam comes. So for those who deny the wujud or the existence of the Imam al-Mahdi, or let's say of the coming of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, because you'll find people who know there is no Imam al-Mahdi. He doesn't exist and he won't come. If that is the case, then indirectly you're attributing a lie to the Prophet. Because the Prophet said it will come. And so his coming is to put a seal on the sadaqat, that he's sadiq and musaddiq.
Yeah, you're putting a question mark on everything, your whole belief system. Because if Rasulullah, I don't want to say is not sadiq al-amin, then your whole belief system crashes. Everything you know about life crashes.
So this is why it's an important aqidah to instill in our minds, that there should be never doubt on the 12th Imam salamullah alayhi.
Saying that, with what's been going on and with a lot of false prophets, I think it's a good time to discuss how to recognize the 12th Imam. Now, I was at your lecture the other day where you mentioned the physical attributes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which were within all 12 Imams as well. I think from the book Haqq al-Yaqeen is mentioned there. For example, the fragrance is the one you mentioned of the Imam, that when they would be somewhere and leave, you could still smell like the fragrance of Jannah from where they were. There's other ones, for example, there's a cloud that follows them to give them constant shade. If you'd like to just discuss a bit on recognizing our 12th Imam.
Yeah, that's an important one actually, because I remember I was listening to a scholar, Iraqi scholar actually, give a majlis, I think somewhere in Iraq, and he made an excellent point. I was listening to him. He says, look, where will the Imam, when he makes qiyam, when he makes khuruj, where will he be?
Kaaba, Mecca.
Makkah. But where does he live?
Oh, right now?
No, where will he live?
Oh, Kufa, no?
Kufa? Base of operations.
Masjid al-Sahla, no?
As-Sahla. Masjid al-Sahla will be the house, maskan, of the Imam salamullah alayhi.
Residence.
Sorry?
Residence
with him and his family.
Okay.
And the hadith, by the way, speaks of him, his wife and children will live there.
New Sayyids.
So,
Mahdawiya Sayyids.
Come on.
So there is no way to, this is another topic which is discussed amongst the ulama of, at a high level amongst the muhaqqiqeen. Does the Imam have children? Is he married? Anyway, but the hadith says he will live there with his wife and his children.
Okay. That
will be his private residence. And he will give hukm from Masjid al-Kufa.
Okay.
That's where he will make,
that's his office.
Pass judgment. Qadi, qadawa. He will do over there. He will be the qadi over there. Like Amir al-Mu'minin salamullah alayhi in the time of his khilafah. Yes. Now, excellent question. How? And so this Iraqi scholar I was listening to, right? I can't remember his name, but anyway, he was a big name. The Iraqis would know him. And he said something beautiful. He said, you know why he will go to Makkah first? So when he comes from Medina, he goes to Makkah. And then later he makes his way to Kufa, Iraq.
He comes from Medina, goes to Makkah.
Makkah first. Okay. Then later he goes to Iraq. Sure. Okay. So he begins in Hijaz. He doesn't start in Iraq. So he said, why does he go to Makkah? Why there? And that is where this answers your question. Because when he will rise up, and this is what he was saying, and he was like, when he will rise up and people will follow him and there will be an announcement, people will think, look, it's just another movement. Yeah. You had Daesh before, you had ISIS before, you had the HTS, the Jolanis before. Yeah. And God knows the Talibans, and the Kaaba was sieged as well. Right back in the 70s, there was this, if you've seen this, read on this, the Kaaba was besieged as well. Okay. By a bunch of men within.
It's on YouTube, you can find it. Yeah, gunshots and everything. Yeah.
They were shot down within the vicinity.
Imagine you're there and you see, is that not a sign? People dying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So exactly. So people will get it's just another person who's. It's just going to be chaos. This is just chaos basically, and so people will just step back and. We've seen so many uprisings. How do we know this is the 12th Imam? So this is why he goes to Makkah. Because when he goes to Makkah, there are certain mu'jazat that take, ma'ajiz that take, miracles that take place that establish for the people that this is not just any other movement or haraka or any other revolutionary group. This is not just any other person. This is the 12th Imam.
Haraka ilahiyya.
Godly. This is a godly power. This is something from Allah. And that's why we have narrations that there will be certain miracles. When he comes towards the Kaaba, where will he stand? He will first pray by the Maqam Ibrahim.
Okay.
Then he will have his back on the Hajar al-Aswad. Subhanallah. That same, when you go for Hajj and Umrah, people are dying to kiss that stone.
You can't
I've
get
seen
there.
funny business there.
People break their shoulders and dislocate their shoulders.
Ihrams flying everywhere.
It's
I've seen
crazy.
hijab flying everywhere. It just gets out of hand.
Yeah, it's a difficult place to get to. The 12th Imam will have his back. It is as if Subhanallah is showing that I am the real manifestation of the Qudra of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
The inheritor of this.
Of this Kaaba, of the Rukn and Maqam and the Hajar and the, you name it. And he will say, Allah ya Ahlillah. And he will give he will say, I am the son of Hussein, I am the son of Rasulullah. But the mu'jazat, the miracles, how do we know this is not just any other movement?
Yeah.
We've had people who have witnesses Daesh and Jolani and God knows whatever it is to come before the Zuhur of Sahib al-Zaman. How do we know? Number one, he will have with him those artifacts that exist with the Ahlulbayt.
Yes.
The Quran of Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Yes.
Amama of Rasulullah.
Sallallahu alayhi wa
The Amma of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. The ring of the Prophet Sulaiman, Khatim Sulaiman.
Staff of Musa.
Asa of Musa. And the Dhul-Fiqar of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Salamullahi alayhi. He will have with him these things that nobody else will have. Then there will be a cloud that will cover him.
Yes.
And you know what's interesting? Is that the Imam Salamullahi alayhi, the hadith says that a cloud will carry him.
Okay.
Nimbus. If he wants from one place to another. So people are obviously used to seeing leaders traveling by jets and private jets and planes. This will be the first time they'll see somebody being carried by clouds.
Yeah.
The other miracle is now, can you imagine Hijaz today, Makkah today. If somebody goes into the Kaaba, says, I am Imam, forget I am Imam al-Mahdi. If somebody says, Labbaika ya Ali, Labbaika ya Hussein, Labbaika ya Mahdi.
You're asking for problems.
What will happen?
You get arrested.
Yeah. It's happened to plenty of people.
Yeah.
Now imagine somebody goes in and says, I am the Mahdi.
And says, Ya li tharat al-Hussein.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Can you just imagine?
Oh, wow.
So now the question is, the Imam must have some supporters there. Whoever is in charge of, we don't know if it's the same royal family that will be there or somebody else. We don't know that, okay? But whoever it is, how do we know he will not be attacked? Because the Zalimeen, the oppressors, will try to attack the 12th Imam.
They'll try and kill him.
Of course, straight away.
And we know that can't be the case because then that's...
No, this is just the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
Just starting.
There's still a long way to go.
It doesn't happen there. So here is where the 313 come into power.
Okay.
Straight away. So even if he's alone there, even if his true followers are in the west, north, south of the globe, you know what the hadith says? That they will be sleeping at night, they will wake up in Makkah.
Wow. Whoa. Transported. Teleported.
And the hadith on the Imam. And the Imam uses an ayah to prove this. He says they'll be sleeping at home at night, wherever they are, across the other side of the world. They will hear the call that the Mahdi has come.
Just wake up in Mecca.
They will wake up, and it's like if they
try doubting that. Try waking up.
Or they'll take the first step and they're in Mecca.
Try doubting that now.
And the Imam recites the verse of the Holy Quran, أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يَأْتِي بِكُمُ اللَّهُ جَمِيعًا. Wherever you are, Allah will bring you together.
Wow.
And the Imam says this is for the Ashabul Khas, or Imam al-Mahdi alayhi, for the Qa'im who is to come.
Allahumma rizqna maqam like this.
Inshallah. This is for the 313. So
Ajib.
People, wherever they are, there will be, so his support will be gathered. And the 313 will be his forefront. And then the rest will follow.
About the 313, we're instructed and encouraged, I should say, to recite Dua Ahad after Fajr. And they say that, if you read it for 40 days, you'll be part of the companions, you'll be part of the soldiers, arguably, or you witness the rise of the Imam Zaman. Is it true? Some of you may be dead and you'll be risen from your graves to assist the Imam.
Absolutely. Dua al-Ahad, right? Where you say, you ask Allah, if I die, then raise me from my grave with my kafan, with my sword that I can join the Imam. So this actually opens the door to a new chapter, which is the chapter of Raj'ah.
Yes.
The return.
Well, there's a big discussion on that as well.
Another discussion, But in short, yes. So they will be brought back to life. Those who have earned it and who want to, Allah will bring them. Like He did with Ashabul Kahf. were
Yes.
brought back to life,
Yeah.
and they were put back to death. Or for example, the Prophet Uzair
Yes.
was
yeah,
brought
yeah,
back to life in the Quran. He slept for
Wow.
100+ years, and Allah brought him back to life, and he went back.
yeah. There's never enough time for this topic, by the way. There's
Yeah,
never enough
it's
time, especially
really
when you have someone like
interesting.
Sayed Muhammad here with us.
Mashallah.
Well, we can go on for hours and hours.
Indeed,
but,
indeed.
Yeah.
But quickly, because we are running out of time. But there was a topic I wanted to touch on in regards to the dhuhr wal khuruj. Like, what's the difference between the two?
So dhuhr is when the Imam appears, and khuruj is when he rises. Okay, and there's a timeline, and if I remember correctly, there may be a gap of a year in between the two. So dhuhr is now, you know where the Imam is. Right now,
The Sahih has happened. We know where the Imam is. He's in Kufa, for example.
yeah,
Set up his.
we know where he is. Right now, we don't know his
Yeah.
location.
Hmm.
But in dhuhr, we'll know his location. But that doesn't mean he's risen up.
Mm.
And interestingly, some of the scholars who have written on Mahdawiyah, they say when the Imam first comes, he will start slow, just like Rasulullah started slow in Ayyam Ba'fat.
People would assume is the Sahih is here. Everyone's going to pick up the swords.
Yeah, you're right.
Just
You
fight
know
everyone,
what?
fight everyone we see in front of us.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Everyone is assuming he's here. Everyone is good. They don't understand. There's going to be so many.
There's a plan.
There's going to be so many doubters.
Yeah.
Even us Shia alone, we would doubt him. A lot of scholars will say he's fake.
We say laytana kunna ma'ak, and we want to be with the Imam. Okay, let's say the Imam rises tomorrow. What am I going to just automatically be part of this whole new world order that's happening?
Mhm.
There's got to be some sort of building blocks in stage, some sort of recruitment, some sort of planning.
And in fact, the hadith says that the 12th Imam will not come until many of the believers of the Mahdawiyah will lose faith in Mahdi.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Yani it's going to get less. The followers and the believers in the 12th Imam will decrease. So slowly people will start, it's been a long time, he isn't born, he isn't here.
So you're saying they're giving
or
up.
he's died.
Yeah,
People will lose faith. People will eventually, these are amongst the signs. So these are actually, if you ask the question, or if you look at how the Shia will be pre dhuhr, just before dhuhr, one of the signs is that they will begin to lose faith, or he's died, or he's not coming. And the Imam says this will happen. There are a lot of people, only those with faith which is qawi, iman, which is strong, they will remain loyal. Otherwise, unfortunately, even when we look at, for example, our Shia, one of the signs is that there will be a lot of internal ikhtilaf, a lot of internal conflict, where they will become enemies sometimes. They will speak against one another. Or for example, even some of the narrations say that they will not even stand one another. It will become quite divisive as we go towards the dhuhr.
We say that a lot. We see that a lot, in the community. And hopefully that ends. Hopefully we can.
Inshallah,
work
this
together,
is a way to work for it.
Yeah,
this is a way to try to avoid that.
Yeah. And one thing I will add on to that, Sayyidina, and again, this is more something that I'd ask from you. But the one way we can keep our aqeedah strong and our belief in the Imam is read the ad'iyah, read the ziyarat. That's what they're there for. Read dua nudba tomorrow, dua nudba every Friday, dua nudba. Do it. Dua al-ahad, Make sure that we build that connection with that Imam.
Do you feel, because I know you work a lot with the community, so do I, saying that you can comment as well. Are we more attached to Bajadan Park, Ahl al-Kisa, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, than we are with the Imam of our time, who's alive right now, who arguably is the one who is crying for us? It's not even that we're praying for him. He's technically praying for us. This whole world, this whole existence that we are experiencing is because of him. And I say to my friends, how do you know that there's a 12th Imam? I say, did the sun rise today? Because the sun would not have risen if there was no Imam on this planet.
Exactly.
In fact, the sun rose so that the Imam can pray his Dhuhr and Asr.
لَصَاخَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِأَهْلِهَا. The earth would engulf. What do you think, Hussein? Are you too focused on Imam Ali and Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein?
I can't speak on historically how the communities were, but me growing
recently,
up, recently,
right
I think we're a lot better than we used to be. Not just with Imam Sahib Zaman, may Allah hasten his reappearance, but with the rest of the Imams as well. Previously growing up, we were just, Imam al-Hussein, Eid al-Ghadir, Fatimiyya done. Not to that extent, but in terms of our lifestyles,
Emphasis was on that.
Emphasis was just on them. Imam al-Hassan Madloom. Imam Hassan al-Askari مظلوم, Imam al-Jawad مظلوم.
I mean,
know?
each Imam had their part to play.
Each Imam had their pivotal part to play, not just on the ground, but for our existence. Like you mentioned, if there was no Imam at the time,
Yeah.
we would engulf, the earth will engulf itself. We would cease to exist. I think now, growing up in the West, the youth have, with their English language, you know, growing up in this community, have started to do more English programs, more English shows, more podcasts, you know, more scholars with the English language, like yourself, Sayyidina, you know, studied Hausa. I'm a servant of the scholars. But I think this has played a big role in more majalis happening, which is, personally, I believe is one of the most important things for us to strengthen our relationship with the Imam. So, yeah, alhamdulillah, we've come a long way, and everyone in the community, whatever background they are, I see everyone going in the right direction, inshallah.
Also, we see, because obviously I travel and lecture, we see actually there's an interest growing where people come to us and they say to us, you know, Sayyidina, can you recite on the 12th Imam? The whole majlis, can you recite on the 12th Imam? So people request us, they ask us, you know, we want to hear more. Like signs and, you know, these things are sensational for them. They want to hear this. They want to connect it to the world. They want meaning in life. And so slowly, what's happening around the world, and everybody's watching the news. It's all on your phone now, right? Because of that, there is an interest developing. We need a savior, we need a protector. And so now is the time to really use this thirst that they have to go to Imam al-Mahdi.
Yeah, I think also we're so connected to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Fatima Zahra salam alayha, Abu Abdullah Hussein. It's because we've spent time, we've learned, we've created a relationship with these personalities.
Exactly.
I think it's about time.
Which is great, because the relationship with the 12th Imam can only be established once you establish your relation with the first.
Totally agree.
And then you slowly. So it's all part, but yes, there is an interest and definitely a need as well to really dissect. And this is not a small topic, by the way. You might say, okay, the Imam only 5 years was in front of us and then the rest is all... No. There is so much on this topic, from philosophy of the ghaiba, the kayfiyah of the ghaiba, and how we work within the ghaiba, what our duties during the ghaiba, what happens after ghaiba, after dhuhur, raj'a. There's so much. Sunni and Shia scholars. In fact, the most rawayat that exist that one can study, and it takes a lifetime, is on Mahdawiyah or Raj'a or Dhuhur.
Really? Yeah, because it's not just the 5 years, it's the 14 infallibles. All talking about Imam Zaman.
Absolutely. That's the best way to put it, actually. It starts from the beginning and it goes right to Qiyamah. Raj'a, everything you put it together, everything goes to the 12th Imam. In other words, the 12th Imam is like this center point where all of the Imams are standing around him.
Wow. Whoa.
Ajib.
That is
the Qutb, as they say.
MashaAllah.
The Markaz. Today is the 12th Imam. Salamullahi alayhi.
May Allah his things be repaired.
We're coming to the end of our discussion. Final points from you, Sukhni. You want to say to our viewers?
I'll be honest with you, there are no final points, man. Like I said, this topic can go on for hours and hours.
It's a scratch on the surface.
It's literally a scratch on the surface. But one thing I will say is, I'll reiterate what I mentioned before. Go to the majalis, read the Adi'an Ziyarat, Dua al-Nudba. Put your emphasis on Dua al-Nudba. Wake up. Just waking up that extra bit early before work to go to Dua al-Nudba is a sign of your commitment, I reckon. Attend the majalis, and that will strengthen your aqidah slowly but surely.
Inshallah.
Don't let it sit idle.
Just one point for your viewers at home. One of the ulama, he was asked, how can we strengthen our relationship with the 12th Imam? How can we get the Imam's attention diverted to us? And you mentioned some good points. And Ayatollah Tawallahi, he used to say that if you want the Imam's attention towards you, if you want the Imam to look, who doesn't want the Imam to look at them? That's all we want in life as a Shia, as a Shia.
You have to be clean for that, no?
The Imam doesn't even have to come in the same room as me. Even if he glances at me from far and a smile. That's all that matters in my life. The smile of the 12th Imam. He says, if you want the Imam's attention towards you, do a mustahab amal. All of your mustahab a'mal, give them as hadi, as gift to the 12th Imam.
Wow.
So your salatul layl, for example, your mustahab fast, for example, your mustahab charity, your sadaqah, your zakat, anything which is mustahab, because wajib is yours.
Yes.
The salatul yawmiyah, that's yours, okay? But anything extra that you do which is mustahab, even if it's takreem, respect of the parents, or going to a majlis of Abu Abdullah, that thawab that you get You say, Ya Allah, I give this as hadiyah to my Mawla, my master. Because there's nothing else I can give him. And then you see how the attention of the 12th Imam is diverted towards you.
Wow.
Show of commitment.
MashaAllah.
Ahsan, Sayyid.
Ahsan, Sayyidina, thank you so much for joining us on
Allah
our
bless you both.
podcast. It was a beautiful conversation.
Honestly, yeah.
Sukhani, you said it before, innit? A good podcast is that you don't want it to end. You want to carry on talking and talking. And there's so many more questions, so many more topics that, you know, and themes we want to go through in Mahdawiyyah, but we've come to an end. Thank you so much. And finally, I would like to say that we do have an Imam of our time and an Imam that is yearning to see us. They say that Hazrat Musa alayhi salam came early because the community came together with sincerity and prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the coming of their Messiah. Inshallah, together as a community, we can come together and we can rejoin our Imam very, very soon. This has been the Shia Vibes here on Imam Hussein TV 3. Inshallah, we'll see you on the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.